Okay, welcome everybody. I'm Nancy Vandell, chairperson of the NCAC Bylaws Subcommittee, and we're thrilled that you joined us for a rousing discussion of policies, procedures, and references. Tom and I are having a discussion about whether they're PP&R or PP&Rs, so we'll continue that, but we'll go with Tom today.
I thought they were P's
I
and
don't mind, but I was right.
Always, Tom. So I'm going to share the agenda. Did everybody have a chance to see the documents folder in case you want to follow along? But we will be showing on the screen.
multiple.
So basically, we have a 2-hour meeting scheduled. I'm trusting we're not going to have to take the full time, but please feel free to ask any questions and make any comments. That's kind of the whole purpose of this meeting. So we will have introductions, review the agenda, which we're doing a little ahead of schedule. And I'll talk very briefly about our process, and then we'll dive into the document itself. Tom will give a brief overview of the structure, and then we'll go into the policies, procedures. And so such a small group, just please feel free to chime in anytime that you have questions or comments, our guests. So, and then we'll have some closing remarks. So any comments on the agenda? Okay, you guys are easy.
I forgot to mention that I do have a hard stop at noon.
Okay.
We won't go past that. At least I will.
Okay. And I think, Wyatt, you had to leave at 11, so maybe
Yeah, I'll probably leave a little bit before, but it's close.
Okay. So we are fortunate to have our entire subcommittee here, and I will let each of you introduce yourselves. Wyatt?
My name is Wyatt Angelo. I've been a member of the subcommittee for 2 years now.
Michael?
Same thing, 2 years, Michael Beachley. I'm also parliamentarian of the NCAC.
And our illustrious scribe.
Oh yes, scribe with this.
Let's not forget that critical duty. And Susan?
Susan Schomburg, also second term Bylaws Committee.
Okay, and our illustrious editor, Tom.
Well, I guess I don't have to give my title then. Okay, Tom Sipe.
Okay, thank you. And Randall Koch, I'll introduce you as our former NCAC chairperson and immediate past chairperson, and also the chairperson of the Community Plan Subcommittee, and welcome today. And then Michael, would you like to introduce yourself? Yeah, you're muted, Michael. You're muted, Michael. You're on mute.
There you go.
Okay, sorry about that. I didn't see it go on mute. I thought I was unmuted from the start. Anyway, you know my dad, obviously, Tom Sipe. I am a property owner on South Beach Road, right next to him. I'm not there full time yet, but hopefully soon. I currently work at Texas Instruments in Dallas, but hopefully I'm able to get a remote arrangement so that I can hopefully someday live in Nesco. That's my plan.
Well, that would be lovely. You know, we're looking for a secretary, which is highly technical, actually, and it's a technical job. So we'll start recruiting right now, right, Susan? Susan is also chair of the Outreach Task Force, which finds officers and committee chair people. So, and welcome, Mark Everett, to our NCAC chairperson. Would you like to introduce yourself, Mark?
Yeah, just Mark Everett, chair of the NCAC. Yeah, we have a little place in Nescoin. So, but we live in Forest Grove, and that's a second home for us. So, yeah.
Thank you. So, just a few brief remarks. We've already introduced our committee. We became a committee almost 2 years ago. We were elected in June of 2023. And we embarked, along with Bill Miller, who was with us our first year, in rewriting the bylaws for the NCAC completely, and through a series of 9 feedback sessions, and then ultimately a meeting to adopt, they are in place. So this year, our project has been to develop a whole new document called Policies, Procedures, and References. And that's what we're going to present to you today. So we have had fewer feedback sessions because so far people seem to be fine with it, or they're just overwhelmed with all the meetings that are happening in NCAC this year. So this is feedback session number 2. We did have a feedback session for the executive board last Saturday morning. We will have another one on Wednesday evening, but at this point, our subcommittee is thinking it will be a review of the whole document, like today's will be, for anyone who couldn't make it on today. And then we have a final feedback session with final in quotes on Saturday, May 17th for the updates to the document that we anticipate between now and then. The meeting to adopt the document and related bylaws amendments that we've kind of discovered along the way will be held on Saturday, May 31st at 1:30 p.m. And the meeting on May 17th will also be at 1:30 p.m. to avoid the farmer's market. So I think what is being presented to you is work in progress, drafty draft. We anticipate you'll see where we've noted when we still have some work to be done, but this will be a living document. And so we'll have so much that will be accepted or voted on May 31st. And then the subcommittee is a standing committee, so it will be continuing on next year as well, and we can make additional updates. We do not expect the pace next year that we've had the past 2 years. It's been quite time consuming. But I will just say, as chairperson, it's been an incredible committee to work with, and I've loved every moment because we're all energized and discuss and have side tasks to be able to work on things and bring it back to the subcommittee. Michael, we operate under Oregon Public Meeting Law. We're part of the Tillamook County Community Advisory Committee under the auspices of Tillamook County's Community Development Department. So we are subject to Oregon Public Meeting Law, which is why we are recording this, and everything will be available for the public to see. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our illustrious Tom of the Sipe family to do some introductory organizational remarks on the document.
Okay, first of all, I apologize, but you're seeing version 4 because somebody sent me some corrections last night. So I made those.
Somebody not to be named, yeah.
Some chairperson not to be named. Basically, so the only thing I did was change sizes of font, and I think at least one grammatic error. So it is essentially the same thing, although there are more slides now. Some of them are going to be a little bit easier to read, but the content should be the same. Okay, so first of all, start with some definitions, and this is where Nancy and I disagreed. PP&R is an acronym for the Policies, Procedures, and References document. That's the thing we're reviewing. So when you see PP&R there, that's what that means. But there are three basic, excuse me, there are three essential parts of it. The policies are directives, guidelines for actions. This is really the most important part. And this is actually the part that we think we're done with. Of course, that remains to be seen what the membership says. Procedures are ways, instructions on basically how to carry out procedures, how to carry out the policies. And there are also some things that refer to bylaws that needed to be fleshed out. And then references are useful things. And I did drop into some formal language, make sure that we have consistency. That is one thing that I've noticed in Tillamook County documents. They use shall and must interchangeably, and they actually mean different things technically. So shall is required to. You got to do this. Should means it's a good thing if you do. May means you want. If you can do it if you want. We don't have an opinion one way or another. I'm not sure we used should or may anywhere, but I think we did actually. I use it in a couple of different places. You'll see that the check mark sign is by all of the policies and some of the procedures. There's no X's with frames around it because we haven't had enough feedback to say that with any confidence that we have general agreement. But anyway, the final one will be done at a special meeting, call for that purpose, as Nancy just said. Okay, so to get into it,
Just edit one thing on that first page.
Yeah.
I believe it should be Nesquin Citizen Advisory Committee,
what did I do? Did I do it?
PP&R.
I did that again.
It's okay, Tom, you're still illustrious.
Just a little less. Okay, fine.
Singular.
Okay, so
It's
in my
single.
defense,
Tom,
that's citizen.
Citizen singular. Sorry,
Yeah,
I didn't mean to interject, but I just wanted to catch it.
no, thank
No.
you, Susan.
Yes, I was sensitized to using the word citizen because in the bylaws I used citizen someplace, and people got completely upset that they thought this is Orwellian 1984. So I just removed that from my writing vocabulary inadvisedly. Okay, so that's my defense. So most of the policies and procedures have a single slide that talks about the summary of it. And the ones that don't, basically, they're complete as you see them. But if there are more the details, then we can go into that if there is interest. And Michael, if you're interested, and we'll definitely go into it. And then there's the reference sections, and we'll just list those out. And if there's questions of what the content is, it was just a lot easier to look at the document, because there are full page pictures which wouldn't transliterate well to the format. Okay, and these slides are based on R33, and that's a hot link. And I believe that document is pointed to in the meeting folder, so that you can get your very own copy. So policies, as I said, are directive statements. And who is going to do values? And
Wyatt. So thank you very much for the introduction, Tom. Are there any questions about the organization of the document before we proceed? Okay, and really, we have such a small group. Please feel free to just interject like Susan just did anytime. So,
yeah,
Wyatt,
we have plenty of time. Only 88 slides.
Wyatt developed policy 1 as part of a introductory comments to our bylaws package last year, and we thought it would be really nice to start off our policies with this. So, Wyatt, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I just in the creation of our bylaws, we were guided by these particular standards and values. I call them standards initially, and Tom added most appropriately the fact that there are equally values here that we've tried to follow in all of our deliberations, as well as the creation of the documents that have been approved so far, and that the policies and procedures that we are going to be hopefully getting approved at the end of May. The letter or the statement of the committee that was attached to the bylaws was really a preamble, and it basically instructed the people considering the bylaws at that time how we came to the conclusions that we did and what the values were that we utilized for that purpose. So we thought that each of them should be included as a standard for the policies themselves. And so we created the policies with transparency, inclusiveness, fairness and equity, and respect. And the whole idea here is that we want as much participation as possible. We want to make sure that people trust the process, so there is transparency that is required for that to happen, as well as respect for other views. And then the fairness and equity is kind of a logical follow through from that. So I think the terms are self-explanatory. You'll see as you go through the document in detail that there has been a significant amount of adherence to all 4 of these principles, values, or standards, or whatever you want to call them. So we invite comment on them. That's about as much as I can say about them because they're pretty plain.
And we do have details on each one of these in terms of what policies or procedures implement these things. And that would be the details that would go through here. And we can go through those, or if there's interest.
Yeah, I think just in the interest of time, why don't we just kind of go through fairly quickly the detailed
Yeah.
slides? But Tom took these and added in different policies and procedures that applied that were relevant. There could be others that are relevant too, but it just shows that we were really considering all these standards and values as we were developing the document. Okay, thank you. And Wyatt, do you want to go ahead and do policy 2?
Sure. To carry out the transparency process or value, we wanted to make sure that all records of the NCAC were accessible to anybody who was interested, as well as its subcommittees. And there are going to be more active subcommittees as we go along. So they're going to become voluminous, but just cruising through the NCAC website, you'll see a section on, I think it's called references, and I could be off on that, but you can go to any set of minutes, you can go to any video of meetings or any set of, actually in the future, financial reports that will be created as we go along, just to make sure that we develop the trust between the members here and the people who are charged with running the committee itself. So this is a step towards doing that.
Thank you, Wyatt. And it also meets the requirements of Oregon public meeting law that our records are to be kept in perpetuity. So we are actually looking at Tillamook County is looking at being able to take over some of this responsibility, but we will always have it on our archives as well. Yeah, so thank you. So, so I don't know if anyone cares about the detail, please speak up. But otherwise, I think we'll just go through the policies pretty quickly. Wyatt and I worked on conflicts of interest, and Wyatt can explain it really well. It's something that's been of interest, and you know, at the beginning of any meeting where we are actually having to take a vote or likely to take a vote, the members of a subcommittee or the members of the executive board all have to state whether they have a conflict or not and what that means. And we all have been blithely doing that. So we kind of did some investigation on this issue. So Wyatt, do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, sure. The conflict of interest has been discussed and beaten to death in courts forever. But in this particular case, it's again goes to the trust issue between the decisions of the committee and the members, the decisions of the executive board and the members. And so there is a definition of conflicts, as you'll note in Article 10, which is the definitions of the bylaws, Section D. And it clearly defines, I think, and incorporates almost all situations where a conflict would exist. We tried to make sure that we distinguished between an actual conflict where a person has an actual interest in the outcome financially or personally versus a bias, because we all have biases about decisions and we all have biases about or opinions about certain things. And so we tried to make that clear in this policy 3. And Nancy found some interesting stuff, and it was maybe Mark who referred us to the Oregon Ethics Commission that had also a great flow chart for determining whether a conflict exists as a reference for all officers and subcommittee chairs to make sure that they have the information and support necessary to make a determination about conflicts. And so that's essentially what this is directed to.
Thank you, Wyatt. Any questions so far? Okay, policy 4. I will turn this one over to Michael.
Yes,
Mike.
From time to time, Michael, we have the need to ask our membership at meetings how they feel about certain ideas and how they might vote on certain things and so on. And so we have developed a set of activities on how to do that. One is surveys and the other is straw polls. And let me start with straw polls. Straw polls are a manner in which we just simply find out on the spur of the moment or at any given moment in a meeting what the membership feels about a particular idea. There are limitations to that. One is that no names are taken, that no particular record of who voted what, and so on and so forth on the straw vote. And the straw vote response is to be used for the development of ideas or policies or activities or whatever. The survey is something quite more formal. And we're anticipating that whatever surveys we handle may actually come from the county. That form may very well also come from the county. It would be difficult for us to do so. However, if we were in the position of developing a survey, we have very strict limitations on what that survey looks like and how it is formulated and so on, with the values of equity and fairness and simplicity and non-biased wording and semantics and so on and so forth. That we limit it to a singular question when possible, that we have a broad enough choice available for the person who is giving answers to the survey, and so on and so forth. We also have a valued access to Oregon State University because they do have a program in developing surveys, and they are very willing to share that and assist us in developing surveys should we need them. That's a service that Oregon State University gives back to the state of Oregon. So one is to gather opinions, and another one is to actually gather more than opinions, really, but choices. And you can see the difference there. Surveys will be sent to as many people as we possibly can send. That is to all members of the NCAC, as well as people who are potentially members of the NCAC, if we have access to them, such as emails or physical addresses or whatever the importance of that particular survey may call for.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. And I think a key statement, I think there are 2 more slides, right, Tom?
Yeah, there are actually 4, but yeah.
Okay. You've expanded. And then we have that in procedures also. A key thing, a summary though, is that these are not votes. So this is not used for voting. It's to gather information in both cases. So, so thank you. Why don't we go on to policy 5, community engagement. So I'll cover that one. We spent quite a bit of time, and this was something that Mark Everett asked us to spend quite a bit of time on developing policies around how we engage with the community. Because we receive, and it's been interesting this year because we have received a variety of requests in different types of requests to deal with, and we didn't really have a policy on dealing with those. And so it helped us give examples on how to write these. So they might be partnership requests. Can you go to the next slide, please, Tom? They might be from governmental groups. They might be requests to partner. They might be requesting us to promote requests for donations. They might be someone may want to come speak at a meeting about something, just a number of different things. And so we put in these policies on how to respond to those requests. So they should be submitted to the NCAC Executive Board. The Executive Board, by the way, is new. It was set up through the Bylaws process last year, and I think we found it to be pretty useful. The Executive Board is composed of the officers and subcommittee and task force chair people. So we meet monthly on a regular basis, and then occasionally for special meetings. And then we look at criteria. Next slide. So we have to make sure that, you know, these requests fall into the mission of the NCAC. And Sarah Absher, who's our Tillamook County Director of Community Development, also would like us to make sure it fits into Tillamook County's mission, and then be brought forward in time for notice. So anyway, I'm not going to go through the detail, but I will mention political advocacy. Why don't you go back one? Is a special case, and we have had 2 requests over the past year to have someone come in and address us about a ballot measure. And in both cases, they were county ballot measures. So we have some policies around that, and then also around candidates. In both cases, we would never take a position, but we certainly can bring people in to talk about ballot measures and or hold a candidate forum that's neutral. And a key point is that we would invite official representatives from both sides to come in and speak. So we just had such a forum, gosh, was it, all the meetings are blurring, but I think it was last Tuesday, having a county commissioner come in and talk about a proposed ballot measure for Tillamook County. So we also will never promote or partner on fundraising activities or requests or share our contact list. And a lot of that is coming from the county on that requirement. Next slide. And then statements and official positions. Tom, do you want to cover that?
Basically, it's all there. That we it goes along the lines of the community engagement, is that it states explicitly that anything that we say is going to be approved by the membership, and they're going to be formally saved. So once we make any kind of a determination, we'll make sure that people know about it and that it's fair.
Thank you.
Okay.
Honor system for voting. This came up quite a bit in our bylaws development last year on, you know, how do we know someone's a member? Article 3 membership of the bylaws was by far the most contentious. I think we had a couple of feedback sessions with over 100 people. And so we're viewing this attendance as we have built some trust. Anyway, the honor system for voting kind of came out of that. So Wyatt, why don't you talk about the honor system?
Yeah, sure. The NCAC is only an advisory committee to begin with. So votes taken, formal votes taken on positions of the NCAC are advisory to the county. And in fact, because there is a robust procedure for providing dissenting opinions to the county as well, if there are some, the importance of qualifying people to vote was deemed less important. It also became a matter of administration because there's no way that the secretary or the officers of the committee have time to vet individual membership qualifications for people. So rather than do that, we made the assumption that people would probably follow the rules because typically most people do follow the rules. And as long as they know what the qualifications are, and that would be through the information given by the chair at the beginning of any vote about what qualifications are necessary to be a voting member of the committee. And so this is what the honor system is all built on and why it was required to be incorporated into the bylaws as well as the policies.
Thank you, Wyatt. And we have some more in the procedures on that as well. Membership registration and privacy. Susan, do you want to take this one? I'll put you on the spot. Susan just arrived back 1 a.m. from Paris.
Yeah, so what we're hoping to strive for is to have an annual registration, and it could be as simple as including it with a Zoom registration, just so that we can annually check in and know who our members are if we have additional new members. And on the screen are the things that we'll be collecting, and you can read them.
Okay. Thank you. So we're looking at doing that annually and then having a button on the website for new people to join. It doesn't need to be arduous, but it just helps us with a list. Thank you. And another key thing back under Oregon Public Meeting Law is that we did kind of win a battle last year with county council, but we do not need to provide publicly contact information for our members. We would have to provide the name and how they're a member, but all other contact information can be kept private. And then in terms of votes, a key thing is that when we vote on something, we do not keep track of who votes how unless a roll call vote is requested. And that's a Robert's Rules of Order on whether a roll call vote is requested. In that case, then we do keep track of who votes and how they vote. Okay, thank you, Susan. Policy 9, we'll turn that over to our parliamentarian extraordinaire, Michael Beachley.
Yes, we are compelled and choose to adhere to parliamentary procedures as written and revised on occasion by Colonel Rogers, and the NCAC is authorized to appoint a parliamentarian who has experience in that area to serve the whole organization and subcommittees and task forces as well. One of the values and commitments of a parliamentarian is to be as neutral as possible on issues of differences among members, so that the focus of attention on the parliamentarian is process itself, and to maintain the integrity of the minority and to serve the fulfillment of the business of the organization. Myself, I've been a parliamentarian actively now for 25 years and actually have done parliamentary procedures for close, geez, are you ready for this? Close to 60 years. And so it's a fun thing. There's not many people who do it. And at this point, after 60 years, I'm still learning how to do this thing. But it's a good thing to have. It gives a semblance of not only authority, but consistency and balance and expectations that all members have access and they have voice, and we respect that.
Thank you, Michael. Next, grant applications and fundraising. So basically, we're not really supposed to do a lot of this, but if we do, then applications for an acceptance of grants shall be approved by the NCAC membership. And if it's approved, the NCAC shall forward the recommendation to the county for approval and processing. All financial transactions shall be administered by the Tillamook County Community Development Department. Because we're a committee set up for the benefit of Tillamook County, they are looking at being able to provide us the funding that we need, but currently we are having to do some local fundraising for just our operations. Any questions about any of this? Okay, policy 11. Susan, your task force.
Yeah, so the outreach task force, what we're trying to do is we have an amazing email list of over 700 emails. However, we don't get those 700 people showing up at our meetings. And what we're striving to do is to reach out to the community to raise greater awareness of the NCAC, not only for people who've owned properties here but for also people who move into the community that may not be aware of it. And so what we've done is we've used the community plan neighborhood locations and broken it out. And ideally what we're going to strive to do is to get point people in each of these neighborhoods, thinking that they will know their neighbors and be able to spread the word better than, you know, a committee that's focused all in one neighborhood. And we've got the map in the reference section showing the different neighborhoods that have been identified by the community plan. And we're just hoping that we get word out, get more people to show up, get more people to be involved, get more people to join committees, run for office, etc.
Thank you, Susan. And this is a brand new committee that was set up last year by the executive board
Task
through the
force.
bylaws process. So what's that?
Task force.
Yes, task force. Thank you. There is a difference between a subcommittee and a task force, and the task forces are to do tasks. They are not under Oregon public meeting law, and so have fewer restrictions on that part. So thank you. And Susan's been working with the support of different executive board members, Mark and Alex, actually, to get access to key points in NESCO and to be able to post information about the NCAC, as well as so has taken over the responsibility from the secretary and the communications task force now for doing that posting. Okay. And now monitoring task force is a new task force that I don't think Mark has been officially set up yet, right? We're looking for people to,
Yeah.
so this was proposed by Guy Sievert, who is doing basically monitoring task force work to try to find other people to start taking that over. Susan, do you want to address that too? You've been working with Guy.
Yeah, so Guy gave us a lot of amazing information about all the different organizations that are important to get information from. And we have them all listed in the reference section at the end of this document. And basically, we're hoping that we get people to be interested in this so that they can give reports at our general meetings, and that we are more aware of what's going on that we may not be aware of that could really impact our community.
Okay, thank you. And also this could serve as providing speakers for future membership meetings that also may attract more members as well, is reporting on some of these different areas. So thank you, Susan. Next slide. Tom.
To make sure that I am, yes, I'm not muted. Yeah, essentially this is a living document, as Nancy mentioned, but there's some parts that are more alive than others. The references section that Susan just referred to, there is contact information for the individual at that organization. Obviously, that's not going to be static over time, so that needs to change with some regularity. And what we wanted to do is provide the executive board with the ability to update the references section appropriately, as long as they're unanimous about it, to be able to keep that current without having to resort to having a meeting or a special meeting on that. Just more flexibility.
So this is new. This is something we updated at yesterday's bylaws subcommittee meeting, where in the past we were saying the references section, with the exception of job descriptions and the map, needs to can be determined, can be changed by the executive board, that the others need to go to the membership. And we decided yesterday that all of it really could be under the authority of the executive board, as long as it's unanimous. So if a single person on the executive board disagrees with a decision to change something on the references section, then it would automatically go to the membership for a vote. And in any case, if the membership, or if it will be reported by in the chairperson's report, if we do make a change to the references section, so that the membership would have an opportunity to weigh in. So Mark and Rand particularly, do you have any comments on this update? Okay. All right. Thank you. So use of name or title, Wyatt, this is yours.
Yeah, this is probably perceived by most of us as shooting a mouse with a cannon, but the concern we had was the reputational damage somebody can do by representing themselves to be an officer of or representing the committee. And so we thought it was good to put some guidelines in here to make darn sure that the terrible damage that could be done doesn't happen. And at least if it does, that we are able to fall back on this particular policy as the requirement for all of our officers and members. Rogue people who decide to do that, we can't control, but certainly our officers are mindful of this. And you'll note that in one of the previous policies, all public statements made by the committee have to go through the chair as kind of a gatekeeping function. So this is what the purpose was.
Thank you, Wyatt. Any questions so far by anybody? Okay, thank you. Minutes. So basically on minutes, we're just reiterating in the bylaws that minutes do need to be taken for any membership or executive board or subcommittee meeting. Even that they'll be the meetings will also be documented through video. Task forces are exempt from this, although they're encouraged to take notes. They do not need to videotape their meetings, video record their meetings, but will all be in the archive. And written minutes don't need to be extensive, but they do need to be written and approved by their body. They're described in one of the procedures that we'll name later. I don't know if we even put in procedure numbers, Tom. They're going to change, so I don't know. We need to figure that out. But anyway, the description is in there about what should be contained, and that way, anyone coming into a meeting can look at the minutes and see whether they want to watch a 2-hour long video. So that's kind of the purpose.
And
and
these are
also,
just, I'm sorry, just saying, these are all details that weren't included in the bylaws for matter of just making it more readable.
right. And the bylaws do say that you have to have written minutes, but we go into more detail in the policy and then also in the procedures. Next slide. So in our bylaws discussions, we had urgent meetings. The original bylaws had a category of emergency meetings, and there was quite a bit of discussion about whether anything would ever come up where we would need an urgent meeting. So the notice requirements are different for an urgent meeting, and I believe it's 24-hour notice instead of 7 days for a subcommittee meeting or executive board meeting, or 14 days for a membership meeting. And this kind of fleshes out what would constitute an urgent meeting. We've actually had at least 2 this year that were urgent membership meetings, and at least 1 urgent executive board meeting. So we've had good reasons for it, but they should be important, and they should need to be happening quicker than a normal notice would require. So we try to provide more information and examples here on what they might constitute. So it's turned out to be a helpful thing. Next. So I guess that's kind of a preliminary, the one before, and then is this still? I think,
Urgent
oh
meeting,
no, this is information only, right? Thank you. So today's meeting is an information only meeting. We're not going to take a vote. We're providing information. We're getting feedback from people, but there's no decisions that are being made, and no quorum is required.
And there's a lot of details there. Now we get into the procedures, which are instructive bits that tell us how to do things.
So back one. Okay, so we say it in that slide. Okay, I thought we had something about the no quorum. Okay, thanks. Oh, we're done with policies. Before we go into procedures, any questions on the policies in general? Because now we get into detail.
If you didn't think we had details before.
Yeah, right. And the procedures are still more under development than the policies, as Tom said at the beginning. So, okay, Tom, thanks.
But we are doing better, because we do have some check marks. We got check marks on all of that's what these things are. We got check marks on all of the policies, and we got quite a few of the procedures.
Yeah, thank you. Wyatt, you're on for honor system again. And I just want to point out that Wyatt is a former federal prosecutor, and so he has some experience with honor system stuff. And his
Nancy, I
wife?
saw him leave
Oh,
a
he
comment
left.
in
All
the
right.
chat.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I think I can summarize it fairly quickly because we do need to move along. Basically, it's a matter of trusting people that in Wyatt's words, if I can paraphrase them, is that most people will do the honorable thing if
Right.
they're not going to cheat. And that in cheating would be few and far between, but probably the most important part of it is giving some let me to highlight that briefly. This area here will puts people on notice. This is it. This is an honor system, and this is what the honor system means. And Mark, I think you found that to be helpful as terms of a preamble for votes.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Mark has started using this already, so this is great.
Okay. Yeah, and then we have some details that you really don't. You,
No,
if you
let's
want to
just move
know, you
on.
can read, study them.
Right. Yeah, when we go through the procedures, we're going to go through these fairly quickly. So please stop us if you want to hear more about it, but there's a lot of detail in here. So
Yeah, we're
Oregon
halfway
Public
through the
Meeting.
slides.
Yeah, Oregon Public Meeting Law and NCAC business meetings. Basically, we're following Oregon Public Meeting Law. So move on. Okay, meeting minutes requirements. We describe in detail what needs to be included, what doesn't need to be included. So next slide.
And kind of meeting and all the details required
Right.
in gory detail.
Right.
Okay.
So procedure for notices. So this just expands on what's on the bylaws about when we have to provide and how we provide notices for what needs to be included in a meeting notice. Agendas need to be posted at some point, but they can be changed even up to and during a meeting. But otherwise, it just talks about all of that. Okay, moving on. Voting.
Here's an instance of where we're not quite done yet, but this is what we're talking about.
Right. Thank you. So we will be fleshing this out, and it's going to have a lot of the components of the straw polls, except oriented toward voting and roll call voting, et cetera. So to come.
And same thing with the email. We haven't set that up yet.
Right. So basically, we're working with Gary, the secretary, on setting up emails for executive board members. Because one of the things we might be asked for by the county if there's ever an information request is our emails. And so it protects the executive board members to have an email. So we've had ours since early last year, bylaws at NCAC or bylaw, I don't even know what it is, but at gmail.com. And so we communicate that way, and it's easier to track if we're asked for something, and it's maintained by the secretary. So we are setting those up for all of the other executive board members to come. Gary's figuring that out. Thank you. Changes to the bylaws. Michael, quickly.
Yeah, the process for changing bylaws can be is pretty straightforward, actually. Anybody can propose a change, but it has to go through the bylaws committee. And the bylaws committee will handle it, review it, write up a response to it, whether it's affirmative or negative, and bring it back to the membership. And it cannot happen on the drop of a dime. It has to go through the process. Bylaws cannot be changed at any given meeting without an appropriate advance notice to the membership, so that everybody has full notification and they have an opportunity to understand what it is and a vote on that particular change.
Thank you. And there's detail to follow here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Michael. Reports to outside agencies. So this is something that fleshes out a couple of the policies on this, and we just had actually a special, I guess, urgent membership meeting to have a report from the Community Plan Subcommittee to report out on the interim middle housing plan.
Preferences.
And what'd you say, Tom?
It was a Nesquin NCAC preferences, And,
Right.
and preliminary.
Right. So, and that's something that we just have to give a shout out here to Ran and his committee, and Tom, who is the editor for that committee too. I don't know how you're doing it all, Tom, but you know, it's doing great work on things of just utmost importance to our membership and to the Nescoan community as a whole. Working under very tight deadlines from the county on middle housing. So, as a portion of their community plan. So it talks about how these recommendations and reports are made and who they need to be sent to and who they need to be approved by and all of that.
And probably the critical thing here is this last detail.
Yeah.
It's,
You want to go through that, Tom?
yeah, essentially, we are a creature of the county. And unless the county concurs with us, we should not make any reports to outside agencies, outside being outside of the county, unless the county supports that. If they don't support it but decline to forbid it, then essentially we'll have to come to the economic decision as to whether or not we want to take the risk to be able to do that. There's always a possibility of lawsuit, and if we act outside our purview, outside of our remit, I've forgotten what we call. Essentially,
Mission.
we're on our own, and the insurance which we enjoy now would be not applicable. So it would have to be an extraordinary point. But if the county says no, it's dead. We do not do it, and that's what this says.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. And Tom broke that out. If you go to the previous slide, it goes through more of the different options here of whether they support or if they choose not to support it. They let us just be. So our mission includes some things that are directly applicable to our role for the county and a few other things, though, that we're allowed to do outside of that. And so that's where this is coming in.
We might, for instance, want to send a report to the Forest Service or something.
Right. Thank
Okay.
you. Okay, moving on. So removal and suspension from position. This is something that Wyatt came up with. Well, I mean, we came up with the detail. I guess I worked with him on it. In the bylaws, we do include this because if you don't have it in the bylaws, you cannot remove somebody if needed. So this gives procedures, if you want to keep scrolling, Tom, on whether someone is elected or not, or appointed or not, and then a suspension if it's temporary and critical that something happened immediately. So this is going to involve a bylaws change, and we are putting together a separate document for related bylaws change, because right now we kind of missed this in the bylaws. We said that committee members, subcommittee members, and task force members can be removed by the executive board, and officers need to go to the membership for removal. But we realize that subcommittees are elected by the membership. So really the same body that elects somebody should remove them. So we have a bylaws change to change the bylaws to say that any position that's elected by the membership needs to be removed by the membership. So we've put together a procedure on how this happens, on whether it goes through the executive board, somebody goes to the executive board, or whether the executive board is initiating this, or whether the executive board decides they don't want to remove somebody, then there is a path for a member to take this through the membership directly. So it goes through a fair amount of detail here, and a 2/3 majority vote is required to remove somebody. Hopefully this will never happen. We would really like to find people and not remove people. So it's just sort of, again, what did you say, Tom? Or I guess Wyatt said a cannon for a
Mouse.
what,
A mouse.
a mouse. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I'm garbling my words here, but organization of subcommittees and task forces, and this really is also talking about convening them at the beginning. And Michael, why don't you take this one?
Yeah, the idea here is that
Can you go to the next slide, Tom?
yeah, we have a whole membership with a broad variety of skills and talents, not all of which has to do with business that the NCAC is involved with. And it would help to have a standardization process where all members have access to not only the rules and regulations, policies, procedures, et cetera, but something about how to operate the formal conduct of meetings as well. It's not meant to be instructions as much as it is meant to be support for people coming on board, and to have a designated person to go through the process of the election of a chair, and make sure that business is handled in the same way for each subcommittee and task force that it is with all other subcommittees and task forces, and so on. And then finally, the parliamentarian will be available to any subcommittee or task force for whatever service or support or concern that they may have.
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, when we
I
were
think that I just want to say that I just made a strike through there.
Yeah.
I apparently did not synchronize the document on this particular one with the parent document.
Thank
just
you,
with that.
because Michael had written them. Yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
Tom, I saw you doing that. So when we started as a bylaws subcommittee almost 2 years ago, we didn't know how to convene a meeting. We didn't know how to elect a chair. We just kind of felt our way, and it worked out. But we thought this would be helpful to give some ideas. And also a key part of that is the parliamentarian or the NCAC chair could come in and convene the committee, the subcommittee the first time, particularly if everybody's new. Okay. Monitoring task force. And basically, Susan, do you want to take this? Is there another slide or two?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, Guy suggested 4 organizations that should be contacted monthly, and those are the bullet points: the Nesquin Regional Sanitary, the Water District, the Sheriff, and the Fire Chief. And those are the most critical, he felt, to reporting to the membership. And then secondarily, there are other organizations which are listed here. And it just kind of basically set a priority more than anything as far as this monitoring task force.
Thank you.
And we
then
do
our
have-
next slide is we have some things we need to work through here. What do we do with these reports? So we'll kind of work on that.
Yeah.
NCAC archives. So we're still writing this. This is something we've added Gary, the secretary, to, because it turns out his background is all about data storage. And so he's going to help us with the detail on how we store our things. We're also working with Sarah Absher from the county, because they're hopefully going to be able to take over storing our documents for us at some point. They're just not able to right now. It really is ultimately their responsibility. So
yeah, they're since we're a creature of theirs, they're ultimately responsible legally. So we hope it will get done.
Right. So we'll be fleshing that out in the next week or so. Conflicts of interest. This is just more detail based on the policy that we had before, and just giving that someone who's declaring a conflict of interest needs to describe with specificity the nature of the conflict, whether or not they intend to vote and or participate in the discussion. And if they decide to participate and or vote, they shall state the justification for that. Questions from the membership shall be permitted by the chair. Okay, request to the NCAC, formal procedure for handling requests to the NCAC. We have quite a bit here. So if somebody is asking for a partnership, this is what the executive board should be looking at on whether to accept that request or to consider. So this actually came up in the last year a couple of different times, and it's what helped develop the policy. So Mark, I don't know if you want to speak to any of this.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was
I would first say that really, honestly, every request we got was not unreasonable. You know, we had a request for a ballot measure for a PAC actually to come in and present to the community on a ballot measure. We had a roads request, something for the local mailman, financial request. So that none of them were bad requests at all, but it started to feel sort of tangled in terms of what is our role and you know, what's our responsibility in terms of working with outside groups on a number of different things. And so, you know, we met in executive board to discuss these things, which was really beneficial because I think in the old days, it might have been the chair and maybe the vice chair talking about it and just making a sort of a thumbs up and thumbs down. And it was hard in the old days. I think Rand's on and, you know, I just can't imagine, you know, in the past not having these sort of guardrails on the committee. So at any rate, we talked about all of this, and I think we've got a reasonable we've gotten some feedback from the county too, especially on financial things that gives us some really straightforward direction. But I think what we've got here is a good plan going forward. I just think that the NCAC is going to have going forward more requests for groups to come and access the community in different ways and probably all for good reasons, but this will provide some parameters. So
Thank you. Can you go to the next slide, Tom? So another area is to promote a group or organization or activity. And so Thomas, editor's note, text to be rewritten. I guess I was the main writer on this, and I like flowchart stuff. Tom objects to my 5 layers of bullets, and rightly so. So he is going to be rewriting this to be more prose oriented. But it does have the information here that you can read more easily in the document itself. Next slide. And then a third item is for us to just communicate a bulletin board item in an email blast or on our website, etc. What we should consider. Okay. What happened to our numbering here?
It's 14 and 15.
Oh, okay, you're going backward. Got it. Thank you. So the bylaws state when membership meetings need to be. They're the second Saturday of every other month of February, April, blah, blah, blah. They state that. They can be changed by the executive board with notice, but the policies and procedures talk about the time and how that they'll be conducted via Zoom. Any meeting that we have needs to be conducted via Zoom at least. They can also have a hybrid option of in-person and via Zoom in the bylaws. And then it just dictates what kinds of change needs to be done for membership meetings, regular executive board meetings, other meetings on how we do that. So just information about that. Next. So I think we have this, I think we've covered this. I think that's still.
Yeah, this is just the details of how to
Got
get
it.
started.
Thank you. Thank you. That's right, because the other was a policy, right? I still get a little mixed up there. So,
Okay.
so I think this just gives more information on what can be covered when a new group is convened for the first year or annual training on all of this. So moving on,
Yeah,
surveys.
that actually may be duplicated. I'm gonna have to look at that. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So this goes into a lot of information about surveys, and we're not going to go through that today, but lots and lots and lots of information about surveys. And Michael and I had lots of fun with this. So.
Oh, it's really
Didn't we?
good stuff. It's just anal retentive.
Because it's complex, right?
No,
When you
it
do a
is, it
survey,
is.
it's
But-
complex, and
But
so
it ought to be because, you know, I mean,
Right.
the bottom line about surveys is that they can erroneously lead people to conclusions that the survey people want them to, you know, and that's not right. It ought to be
Right.
as neutral as possible. And so there's a science to developing it, and we need to follow that.
Right, right. And yeah, it's enough said. And the same with straw polls, which are of course less of a major deal, but still want to be able to get information.
Yeah, and okay.
And still has the 5 levels of bullet points in the straw
Yes.
polls. Okay. Outreach task force, more information, Susan.
Let's see here. This kind of just fleshes out the ideas about how we'd like to permanently display the notices and possible areas that we're considering. Creating opportunities through guest articles in the NCA newsletter, guest speaker opportunities. That's basically it.
Okay, so done with that. The references section, why don't you go to the next slide, Tom, and it lists the different references that we have, but could we go to the documents so we can kind of just show people at this
I'm
point?
scrolling to the right place in the document, and I'll drag it over to the right screen.
Thank you. While he's doing that, I know it'll be quick, but Tom and I were talking after the meeting yesterday a little bit about a possible new policy that would be very short, no procedure needed, about that. I guess it's come up because of another organization I'm involved in and may not be necessary, but I'll just throw it out. The committee has not heard this as a whole, but it's an NCAC member may hold no more than one position on the executive board. So that's just something for the committee to think about, and also for Ran and Mark to think about. And the reason for that is just that people can focus on their board position. And otherwise it could be tempting if we're having trouble finding people to serve on an executive board position to have someone take over 2, but it might actually be detrimental to being able to get focus on either of those positions. So something to think about on whether you'd like to add that.
You might forward that to Senator Rubio, I think, of Florida, who's
No kidding. Yeah. two rather, at least he has staff. We don't have staff.
What's he got? Three positions now?
I think 2. Yeah. 2 major. He had to give up his Senate seat. Yeah. So thank you, Tom.
Okay, I got the right one now. Okay, there we go. I don't know how readable that'll be. Let me magnify it a bit.
Looks pretty good to me.
Okay. So the contact information, that's TBD. And the wealth of information we got from Guy, let me make sure that it's not going to jump on me.
Well, and I know Susan spent a lot of time going through and getting current people.
And as I said, this stuff is going to be mercurial, and we need to be able to change that. Lots of good information there, and just good information for the membership in general.
Well, and the nice thing is they can be kind of a snackable job for people if they want to do just, not have to spend a lot of time, but contribute. They could take 1 or 2 of these responsibilities and that they have interest in. So that'll be something to look at next year of trying to fill some of these things.
So I volunteered to report on the search.
Awesome.
Okay. Great. So we need a chair to take that on, and we're still looking.
Oh, I don't want to be chair.
I'm
that's too hard.
No, we're not asking you to be chair. You are up to already past. I don't know how you're doing it currently. So Robert's Rules of Order, just letting people know specifically in the Robert's Rules of Order just likes to be just noted as newly revised. So in the policies and in the references, we're saying what it is. It's the 12th edition currently in the copyright. And thank you, Michael, for that. And our famous map. You would not believe what went into this map. So it is.
I believe I had 16 versions of that map, official versions.
I was going to say, I think there are even others. Yeah. So this is our membership area. All right, moving on.
And this
And-
needs to be updated because there's a community to the north. Which one, Susan?
Wainema.
Wainema, which is up here. And so I've got to completely redo this map. So it's going to be not as pretty, but more accurate.
It's really helpful. It's really helpful for me to see all these different neighborhoods. Really, and I like the coloring too.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I can still color it, but I'll have to have edit. Never mind. You don't want to know about that.
Probably not. So job descriptions we're working on currently. We have looks like down in secretary, I think you've gotten all that in, right? So we focused
Yes.
on the secretary and communications task force positions because again, those require bylaws changes. They're very complicated. And so we felt like, and the secretary position is open still. We weren't able to find one for the election in April. So we felt like that was the priority. I'll be working with the other officers to detail out their positions. So those will come. And
Communications.
yeah, we have the parliamentarian duties laid out there. Won't go through that now. Michael did a good job of describing that earlier. Okay, Community Plan Steering Committee. That one, Tom, you wrote that, right?
Oh, yeah, I did, and did not run it past Rand yet.
So Rand, you might want to look at it.
Yeah,
as
she
the
might look at this,
chairperson.
Rand. This is what you think this is what I think you're doing.
Oh, that will be interesting.
It's pretty short there, but it's at the bottom of the document. It's in the meeting folder.
It's this section right here. So anyway, we are feverishly working, and I do mean feverishly. We're going to meet every week for a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah,
Okay,
really
conflict of
important
interest.
things. So yeah, this is something that we, again, I'm wondering if we should take out the League of Oregon Cities one, because it seemed like the Oregon Ethics, I know I was the one who put the link in originally, but the Oregon Ethics Commission just has so much better stuff, particularly that guide for public officials. And they also have this flow chart that Tom altered to make just more like for us. That really takes you through what some of the complexity is on conflicts of interest and the subtleties, I guess, of conflicts of interest. You can have a conflict of interest. You just have to kind of weigh it. I mean, everybody has, some degree of opinion and bias, as Wyatt said. This just talks about disclosure, what can constitute it. It could be a family member or a close friend or something that this takes you through. But the other document above that we have the link to goes into more detail. And as interestingly, as officers or chair people for this this NCAC, we are considered public officials by the state of Oregon. And so that's why the conflict of interest is relevant for us, even though we're not paid. So I think that's it.
That's it.
So
That's all.
Yeah, so thank you. So we got through this in an hour and 15 minutes. So thank you. Any discussion, questions on any of this? We really want to hear your feedback. Obviously, it's a working document. We still have time to change it, and we will have some further updates too.
Michael, could I ask you a question? We talked many times about how relatively complex this document is and whether or not people are actually going to read it, but it's there and it's worthy and it's a good model for how organizations run. And I'm more than interested in, rather than your questions about details, how does this appear to you and what effect does this have as you've seen it for the first time?
Thank you. And before you answer, Michael, because that's a really good question, Michael, to Michael. Tom, could you go to the beginning of the document just so that people who haven't seen it before kind of see how it's structured? Because we've seen the presentation, but really the document itself is good too. So at the very beginning.
Very beginning. Okay.
So it goes into these definitions, and then Tom has the table of contents set up so you can jump back and forth between the different sections. So the policies are listed, the procedures are listed, and then the references are listed. So it's fairly easy to navigate. And then you go into the, if you keep scrolling down, you can kind of see what the policies look like. And they're basically the same text as in the presentation, but it's a little easier to read when it's in a Word document. So, okay, now I will put Michael on the spot again. Or Rand, did you have a?
Oh, I just wondered where's the easiest access? These are on the website yet, or?
They're on the meeting folder for today. So if you go
Right.
into the meeting folder, this document is there.
Okay, so I'll
So if you go
I'll
into the
drag it
event,
out and put it somewhere else so I
if
can
you
find it.
if you go into the events page
Uh-huh,
and you go into the documents for the events page for this event,
right.
then all of these documents are in there.
Okay,
And the bylaws are in there, this document, the presentation is in there, the feedback meeting schedule, and then there's a document, the agenda, and then there's a document with kind of an explanation of what we're doing.
thank you.
And that meeting folder is updated. It will be for all of our feedback sessions. You can go to that meeting folder and we update it whenever we have a new version. We update it. We've asked Gary to put a button on the overall website where we can keep this, but for now, that's what we're doing.
Okay,
Or you can email me at NCAC blah blah blah, and I can
Sure.
point you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So Michael put you on the spot. We're going to we're back to you. And thank you, Tom. I think you can stop sharing.
Yeah, just it seems to be laid out very well. I like the distinction between policies, procedures, and references. That seems to be very well defined. In general, there's a lot of attention to detail, more than I was expecting. So that's all very good, in my opinion. Some of the text was a little bit small to see on Zoom here, but as you mentioned, there's a link in the meeting folder, so I'll be going back to review that.
Okay, well, thank you. And you can certainly give your feedback directly to your dad, but you're also welcome to contact us officially through the NCAC email. And we appreciate your coming and listening. And Rand, we appreciate your coming a second week in a row to hear this. Do you have any comments about the document at all after you've had a chance to cogitate for a week?
Just again, being able to go someplace to answer a question, and then if it's still a question, access Michael Beachley, and having those references and the access is something I never had and would have been really helpful.
Okay.
So I'm very grateful, and just knowing that it's there is very helpful. And as I mentioned before, I'm doing Slab Creek Farm stuff. It's very different, as you noted when you reviewed documents, but some of the basic values and things are really helpful to give an orientation for what we're doing here, how to keep it clean and ethical and thoughtful is very valuable for that procedure for me
Well,
also.
thank you. Thank you.
Well,
We do
really
welcome any specific, if you have any suggestions or anything. And we will, as you see, there'll be some further updates in the next week or so. So, and Mark, we would just really appreciate your attending, I think, just about every meeting we've had and being really a sixth. You are not officially a sixth member of the committee because we want to be able to communicate with you with more than 2 people at a time. And so you're not officially, but we really value all your input all the way along. You've made a big change for us, or helpful, big help for us. We do need to notice any of these bylaws changes and the policies and procedures 2 weeks before the May 31st meeting. So we have a bylaws subcommittee meeting on the 16th and the final feedback session on the 17th, and then we plan to issue the document with that notice. And in the meantime, we also will be simultaneously going through Tillamook County for that. But we do feel like we can go ahead and have the meeting to approve. And if we have any changes from the county, we could go back later and make those changes. So thank you all. I just want to thank the committee. There have been innumerable, I don't like to use the word innumerable, but I can't number them. So meetings in between our meetings with 2 at a time following Oregon meeting law to develop these different things to bring to the full subcommittee. Everybody on this committee has worked tirelessly on developing this document and last year the bylaws. So thank you very much, all of you. And I think with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Okay, so thank you all. Right now, we have no one signed up for Wednesday night, so I guess we'll see what happens. As I'm reading this is a lot of trust. So Michael Sipe, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your dad, because we've taken a lot of his time away from you. So thank you. I'm going to stop recording. Meeting adjourned at 11:23.
All right.
Nice